Good afternoon and welcome to Your Business Live here with Connexx. What this is, we get together on Tuesdays and Thursdays and interview members of Connexx to find out more about the individual as well as their business. If you're wondering what Connexx is a personal and professional development team. Say team because together everyone achieves more. We exchange ideas, offer support, advice, and refer business to one another because that's what we do. And today, have the pleasure of having on as a guest someone who I've known for I think about 6 months now, who I've used, who I've referred, and she is phenomenal at what she does, and she's perfect for this area of the law. So that being said, I'd like to welcome on Josephine Doyle.
Hi.
Hello, Josephine. If you could just give yourself an introduction and let everyone know what it is that you do, and we'll start with that.
Okay, my name's Josephine A. Doyle. Attorneys like to use their middle initial. I am an attorney. I'm an elder law attorney. A lot of people don't know what an elder law attorney is, but lawyers specialize just like doctors do. I concentrate on the elderly, which includes estate planning, which can be trusts, it can be wills, it can be Medicaid planning to protect their assets against Medicaid claims. It can be powers of attorney, healthcare proxies, living wills. It's advanced planning. You don't have to actually be elderly to do this planning. If you're a young family, you should definitely have a will because you want to appoint a guardian for your children. And everybody really should have a will if they have any assets, or even if they don't, it's a good idea too. But
I was going to ask you what you just said because I wanted to phrase like that. Very often I've heard people say why you should have a will. Instead of that being the question, let me ask you, God forbid someone got sick with what's going on with COVID, and God forbid they die. What happens to someone who doesn't have a will?
If you die without a will, it's called dying intestate, without a will. And so each state has their own set of laws as to how your assets should be distributed. They usually are distributed according to kinship, according to those who are related to you by blood. So in New York, if you die intestate, the first question they ask is, are you married? The second question they ask, do you have children? And then depending on the answers, if you're married and you have children, your estate goes to both your spouse and your children. Your spouse gets $50,000 plus half, and then the other half is divided equally among your children. Those children don't have to be from that spouse. They could be from multiple spouses. They could be from multiple relationships. But if they're your issue, your children, they would take a share in your estate. If you are not married and you don't have children, then they say, do you have living parents? And if you have living parents, it goes to the living parents. If you don't have living parents, then they ask if you have living siblings. They also ask if you have predeceased siblings. And if those siblings are predeceased, do they have children? So there's a whole marching order that is followed. And the way that your estate is distributed is dictated by law, and most people are not happy with that.
What if you don't have a will? And again, God forbid, if my wife and I did not have a will and we have 2 children and God forbid we were killed in a car accident, what happens to our kids? Is that something that would be outlined in a will?
Yes, you normally appoint a guardian for your minor children and a trustee for the property that they would inherit because they're too young to know what to do with it. It could be the same person. It can be different people. And sometimes that happens where people are killed in a common disaster or accident, a couple who have children. And sometimes there's really no one to take care of the children. And other times there's many people who want to fight over the kids. Supposing you have 2 sets of grandparents and they both say, I'll take care of them. They love me. I'm going to take care of the kids. That's all I have left. I'll take care of those kids. Now the kids are fought over. And it's not an issue of whether you have more money or a more beautiful home. It's the determining factor is the best interest of the children. But then what happens is they bring in psychologists, there's testimony, you have to go to court. It's nasty.
That's if
That's
you
my
don't have a will. Whereas if you have a will, you can say the kids are going to go here and these are the parents' wishes.
Yes, yes. I mean, of course, in a circumstance like that, you should always ask people first. Sometimes people love your children, but if their kids are 21 and 25, they may not be happy to have a 5 and a 6-year-old in the house again. You know, whereas another brother or sister may have younger children, and it's just adding to the group. But my recommendation when picking guardians is pick someone who will parent as closely to the way that you would, because you can't parent from the grave. Every day is a new experience. Every day something comes up that maybe you didn't think of before. So you want someone who's going to have your same morals and values and who would probably react the way that you would. And that's the best you can do.
Oh, there's so many jokes I could say about who I should appoint. What would you say is the most common misconception about people contacting you about wills or about your area of the law?
The most common misconception, sometimes people don't understand because I do real estate. I mean, often you have to sell a house as part of an estate. Sometimes people don't understand that because I can sell a house, that I also do wills, that I'm an elder law attorney. They don't read my card. And sometimes that's confusing, and sometimes they think one of the ones is really an old misconception. They think they have to leave their children something, and they'll come in, and sometimes people have a reason to cut a child out of the will, an adult child, and they'll say, well, should I leave them $1? And apparently before I was ever even in law school, people did that. They left someone $1. You don't have to leave anybody anything except your spouse. That they can assert a right to your estate.
What have you had to ever deal with a child or a family member that then starts complaining to you or venting or yelling at you because something didn't turn out the way they expected it or planned it?
Yes. I mean, on numerous occasions. Usually what happens is people say they're either going to change the beneficiary of a life insurance policy, or they say they're going to change their will, and they don't get around to it. People don't like doing wills. It's almost like they think, oh, if I do it, I'll die. Well, we're all going to die, okay? So doing your will is not going to trigger your death. But what happens is people put it on the back burner. They don't do it either because they don't want to think about it. It scares them. They want to spend their money on something else. They don't want to make up their mind. They don't want to have an argument with their spouse, things like that. But then it's not done, and people come and say, but they told me it was mine. They told me it was going to happen. I need it. Not a darn thing I can do for them.
Wow. Let's see a bunch of questions coming in. All right, Sean, go ahead, bring one up. Do you need to update your will if you move to a new state? Great question.
That is a good question. No, as long as you were a domiciliary of the state that you did the will in, it's still a good will. You could even come to New York, and if you're here and decide to do a will, you could do a will as a resident of another state. That can even happen. That doesn't happen too often. But supposing you went on a vacation, like you were staying with your parents in Connecticut, and you were there for a few months. Supposing your father introduced you to his attorney. I'm assuming that Connecticut is the same, but you could have done a will up there even though you were a resident of New York, assuming they have the same law that we have.
Okay. Another question. Bring up. Does a person have to have a minimum amount of assets to create a last will?
No. Not at all. In fact, as many young parents will say, I don't have anything. I got kids, But that's your most important asset. That's your most valuable asset. And so, yes, you want to do a will, if for nothing else, to appoint the guardian for the children. Also, you should remember, supposing you were in a terrible car accident, there might be a claim against the person who hit you, and you need an executor to assert that claim in court and then to collect the judgment, which would be then left to the children. So you might die with very little money, but you might die with a cause of action that could put money in your children's pocket.
Oh, wow. Never even thought of that. Go ahead, Sean. Another question. What are the main benefits of a living trust versus a last will?
Okay. A living trust is a trust you create during your lifetime. And a testamentary trust is a trust you create in your will, and it doesn't go into effect until your will is probated. What the person is asking about is, if I create a trust during my lifetime, which could be either revocable or irrevocable, why would that be better than a last will and testament? If people create an irrevocable trust, one that they can't revoke and they can't change, they usually do that to protect their assets from claims by Medicaid. If they ever needed to go to a nursing home and they needed to get Medicaid to pay for it, they don't want Medicaid coming back and saying, the estate should pay me back. So that's primarily why they do an irrevocable trust. To do a revocable trust, you put your assets into the trust, as many of them as you want. Could be everything, could be some of them. And then your trustee has the right and the authority and the responsibility on your death to distribute those assets as you dictate in the trust. They don't have to wait for the will to be probated, which is very nice because it can take months and months, and especially here after COVID, it is taking months and months and months to probate wills. So it doesn't tie their hands. They can get to the money, they can pay the funeral bill, they can pay the carrying costs of real estate, they can distribute money to beneficiaries. So that, and it's also private, it's not a matter of public record. Whereas a last will and testament, you can go to the surrogate's court and you can look up the will of whoever you want.
Oh. When doing a will, is it something where someone is charged based on how much they're putting in the will, or is it usually just a flat fee?
No, it's not. It's not based on how much you have. Like, aha, I got a rich client, I got a big fee. It's based on how complicated the will is. So a simple will be one flat fee. But if the will becomes more complicated because of your wishes or because of extended family, because maybe you have a disabled child that you want to provide for with what we call a supplemental needs trust, those kinds of things, depending on how complicated it is, that will increase the cost of the will because it takes more time and more knowledge to draft it. But it's basically a flat fee.
Got it. And let's see, Sean, one more question. Bring it on up. Are you able to do? Yeah, she said that you can do the will. So if you do the will in one state, but you're now living across the country, if I move to California tomorrow, I up and leave my family, I did a will with you, I'm leaving everything to my kids, and I go live in California, and I don't keep any contact with any family, how are you alerted to the fact that I passed away, and who executes that will?
Okay. Good question. There's like several questions in there. If you were to die out of state or even in New York, but nobody knew about it, supposing you were living alone in an apartment, sometimes this happens with these old widowers. Usually seems to happen with older men rather than old women. But the police usually come in and find you. They will look around the apartment. They will look for a will. The public advocate gets involved. They'll look for a will. They'll look in your checkbook ledger, although not everybody has a checkbook ledger anymore. But they'll look to see if you paid an attorney. One time we got a call because we send Christmas cards. And they're like, the attorney sent the Christmas cards. So then the office was contacted. Do you know this person? Do they have a will? So, or sometimes it's a relative is contacted and then they know of the attorney or they look through the apartment. But eventually, through some circumstance, the attorney is contacted. Now, if they don't find anything, it's possible that your estate could be probated as if you don't have a will. So although you don't have to hand your will out to other people, it's a good idea to let them know you have one, or to let them know the attorney that you did it with. I don't always recommend telling other people what you put in your will, other than asking them if they'll be the guardian for your children. Because no matter how fair you think you are, especially with adult children, one child is going to say, well, you paid for him to get a bachelor's and a master's, and I only got a bachelor's. Or you bought him his first car, and I had to buy my own. Or I stayed here and took care of you, and he went and did what he wanted to do. No matter how fair you think you are, somebody's always got a reason. So I figured let them duke it out when you're gone.
That's a good way to handle it. Oh, one more question has popped in. Go ahead, John, put up. What's the strangest dysfunctional family situation you ever heard or went through related to a will and its benefactors?
I have one now that it's been going on for about 4 years. This man was married for 40 years, and it was a bad marriage the whole time. He had 4 children who he felt didn't love and respect him. He left half of his house he dictated that it be sold. He left half of his house the proceeds to 3 granddaughters, and the other half of the proceeds to his wife. And he purposely had me say that he was leaving his children out because they didn't love and respect him. They tried to contest the will, but they were unsuccessful. And that took quite a while. They avoided service of process. That took quite a while. The mother died suddenly. The estate wasn't sold. So now her estate is going to get divided among them, but they're all fighting among themselves, and they won't move their property out of the house. And so that means that we're carrying the house and all the charges, and we're wasting their money because they can't manage to get along.
Well, so you have to actually say he didn't leave this money because you didn't love him enough, or say what he wanted to.
No, you do not have to say it. He wanted me to say it.
No, but I'm saying, like, you have to honor that request. So, like, you were hired to read those words that he said, I want you to say this to them.
Well, there's no reading. That's another misconception. People say, when are we going to read the will? Because that's what they do on TV. We don't read the will. I don't invite people to the office and read the will to them. I mean, if they wanted to come in, I would do it, but we don't do that. We send them a copy. We tell them what the bequest is, but we don't have it sit down where we read the will. This man wanted to say why he wasn't leaving them anything, but you could just say, I leave to A, B, and C, and not mention your children, and not say why. Sometimes people have me say, I intentionally make no bequest for reasons known to the person. Or sometimes they make a greater bequest to one child than the other, sometimes, especially with like stepchildren and stuff. And they'll say it in no way diminishes the amount of love that I have for them, because they felt maybe like one kid, they gave him a down payment and the other one they didn't, stuff like that. So sometimes they'll try to say, I've made a disparate bequest among my children, but it doesn't mean I love you any less.
Wow. Well,
it's important to me. It's important to me to have a really good sit down and get to know my clients, get to know their families, and really be able to give them good advice. It's not cookie cutter stuff.
No, definitely not. And I think that's why you are good at doing it, because I think you give good advice that doesn't have an emotional attachment. But I like how when I've worked with you, or with my wife working with you, I like how you give scenarios and let us make the choice what's best for us, but just what could happen if you go down this road and what could happen if you go down this road. So,
thank you. Thank you. I'll keep doing that then. It's working.
Yeah, it works well. If you could let anyone watching right now know, as far as Connexx goes and being in Connexx for the last 10 months or so, whatever it's been, how's that been for you, and what would you say for anyone who's interested or researching Connexx? Oh, she's getting a call, I bet. She'll be right back in a second. And
yeah, someone tried to Skype.
Yep.
Yeah.
They can wait. What would you say about Connexx and how the experience has been for you?
It's been a great experience. I was invited by Sally Young, who of course is like filled with energy and a wonderful spirit, and I felt very welcome. And the minute I came in, I felt welcome. I didn't feel that it was like a cliquey group. I felt that I was welcome there. Everyone's been very, very gracious to me. I do feel it's a real support system, not just for professionally, but it's sort of like we're all in this together and let's be supportive to each other. And that's great in life. You know, we need to be strong. It also is great to be able to call another attorney, which we regularly do, attorneys. You know, we have a reputation of being very adversarial, but when we're not actual adversaries, we are brother and sister lawyers. We will call each other up. We talk to each other about the cases we have. We bounce them off each other.
And we're back. And we're
okay.
Back. There you go. Got you back.
Okay, so we say that we bounce cases off each other. You know, we get each other's opinions. You know, this is the way I'm going to approach it. What do you think? So it's great to have like the other attorneys in the group, and especially like if I don't do personal injury. I don't do contracts, but I don't do criminal law. But I have people I can refer to that I have faith in, and they can refer to me if they want.
Perfect. All right. So if we put on up go ahead, Sean, if you can bring up the contact information, and to get in contact with Josephine, have phone number and email right there. And thank you very much, Josephine, for being here today and for being part of Connexx.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
All right, Sean, you can. Great. Little technical at the end, but
it's all right. How you doing?
Was my sound breaking up or choppy at all?
Sounded spectacular.
Did I sound as good as your blue shirt looks? That's what I want to know.
Probably not.
Probably not. No. And I do like that one. That's the shade I like on you. It brings out your eyes. And I like the haircut too. I'm jealous.
Thank you. Thank you.
Did you learn anything new about wills and anything you need to add to or take away from yours?
I think the part that was very interesting was when people meet with her, it's the explanation to the people who find the will that you still love them, and because essentially you're creating a voice that is no longer there. So I never really thought of it that way. You know, I just thought of, all right, everyone, this is where I wish my kids to go. This is where I wish my money to go. But putting in an explanation, you know, almost like an emotional explanation is pretty interesting.
Imagine if you did like a video, like you filmed it. Like we could do one of these. We could record one after we're done, and we can leave it for my kids or family. And I can say to them, I'm leaving you more because you always kiss me goodnight every night, and I think you love me more. Then I can say to the other one, you should have hugged me and loved me more. But imagine actually watching the person say it to you instead of read it. Something to be
makes me think, do you have a contingency plan with Connexx? If I was going to lead it, the Connexx sign may be blue.
Yes. Yes. So we'll put this into the records, and we'll make this my last will and testament for Connexx and the succession plan. But
that's funny.
No, that is that with everything, with anything. But
yep,
you're in insurance, you know, it's protecting for the unexpected. But I guess with death, it's probably going to happen.
Yeah, and the last thing you want is for, you know, your significant other, your kids, to be sitting around a table and, you know, to tell them that you had no plan, and, you know, it's almost it's love to create these plans. So, and Josephine is someone who, she's so kind, and I would definitely recommend for anyone, because you need to really trust that person, because you're divulging what's going on in your life and they're seeking good advice. So, she's a great person for that.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're all going to die, and when we do, make sure that things occur. And that's how she got me to do a will, is by just saying, what's the most valuable thing you own? And I said, my house. And she said, what about those who live in it? And I was like, oh, they slipped my mind. And at that point, I was like, wow, I never thought about it like that. So like insurance, it's protecting those, because imagine it going to the court system. Look how everything's been with COVID and getting an answer or a call back. Imagine trying to handle that with will. But I digress. Josephine's information is right there. And let's throw the Connexx information. Tomorrow morning, we have our weekly Connexx meeting at 7:15 a.m. We had a great meeting last night for our Monday night meeting with 3 guests last night. And I think we have 3 or 5, I can't remember which one, for tomorrow's meeting. If you're wondering what is Connexx, this is just one of the things that we do, this interview show with our members. But you can go to the website that's scrolling at the bottom right now, learn more information about Connexx and our little community. But if you have a business, we'd love to meet you, and we can help your business, and we can help you to become better at your business and help you to communicate more effectively and provide more people that you may never have met before. And the funny thing is, a lot of people that belong to different networking groups or consider themselves networkers will run into someone or multiple people that they know here at Connexx, because you may go check out the other groups, but eventually people end up at Connexx because we offer something that the other groups don't. And that is where we put the person before the profession, and we get to know you, and then we get to know your business. So on behalf of Mr. Sean Rosenfeld, or as I like to call him, Baby Blue, with all of his shirts and eyes, well, same set of eyes, lots of different shirts. Thanks for joining us today, and check out getconnexx.com, and we hope to see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody.